Working with a true expert is an experience unlike any other. Knowing they have the knowledge, experience, adaptability, and judgment to serve you and those you love is something special. As a trusted guide through the most important times in my clients' lives, I have realized that these experts are all around us and I want to know more. I'm Brandon Ayers, and I've searched near and far for the people I consider to be experts in their field, interest, or hobby. As it turns out, they're just like us. I've invited one of them here today to join me as we take a deep dive into what places them among the true, everyday experts. Welcome to Everyday Experts with Brandon Ayers. I am Brandon Ayers. I am really excited about today's episode. I talk a lot about being a trusted guide through some of my clients' most important times of their lives. And I have somebody here who's been my trusted guide through some really important things. Raghu Sundara of Always Be Connecting, and owns a local insurance company as well. He's a business coach. And I'm really excited to share him with you and get this conversation going. So thank you, Raghu, for coming along. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show.
Yeah. I know it's a place of honor.
It is.
We didn't quite get the trumpeters here and didn't have rose petals to throw for you as you walked in, but we did our best.
Oh yeah.
Did our best for you.
It's fun.
So I always start, my podcast, my first little segments, I called God a Second. So I knock on your door, just come in small talk. I know you're a Bears fan.
Yep.
Season ticket holder.
Unfortunately.
For a long time. Got those PSLs and gonna, use those as your little nest egg, I'm sure. My brother's a big Bears fan too. And him and I get to talking. And I want to get your opinion on, the Bears and their draft success. This side of Brian Urlacher has maybe been a little spotty. Mm-hmm. So just want to talk, when I say a draft letdown, what is that? What do you hear? Who do you picture when you hear Bears draft letdown?
It's pretty sad when you picture a lot of different people.
It's like a collage.
Yeah.
It's
like
your book with, would you go Curtis Enis?
No.
Because there's a lot of hype with
Cade
Curtis
McNown. Enis. You can go
Rex.
Rex
Didn't have that much. I don't remember too much. I mean, he was a good for high pick, but he wasn't like hyped like Mitch was or anything else.
Yeah.
But who would be? So let's maybe go Mount Rushmore approach.
So the top four.
The top four letdowns. Like
I would say Mitch.
Okay.
I would say Curtis Enis.
Curtis Enis on Mount Rushmore. Okay.
Cade McNown.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to think of another one.
Who
was a? There's so many.
Rashawn Salam wouldn't be quite because he had some productive. Yeah, he had some productive years, but he was a high pick.
Years. Yeah, totally.
Was he 2 or 4? Or would you put? You wouldn't put. Who's the Benson? You wouldn't put Seth Benson. He was good.
No. He actually had some good years after he left the Bears.
Yeah, after he left the Bears.
For the Bears, he was a bust.
Yeah.
So,
but he never had that.
Maybe,
Was Benson on the Super Bowl team?
Benson was on the Super Bowl team.
Okay.
It was Thomas Jones and him.
Oh, okay. I thought so. Okay.
For the Super Bowl team. And
all right.
They were trying to feed it to Benson a lot.
Yeah.
And try to get into a shootout with Peyton Manning in the rain.
It's a good idea.
Never works.
Great idea.
No.
Well, maybe we'll do a 3-man Mount Rushmore because interesting fact, Mount Rushmore was supposed to originally be only 3 presidents.
I did not know that.
Yep. Roosevelt stuck himself on.
Oh, wow.
Roosevelt was one that wasn't going to be there. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll just do a 3-man. Yeah. Because if you picture out Rushmore, it's like the corner there. He stuck himself in that corner. He's like, there's enough room. Yeah. Huh. So there you go.
Now I know.
3-person Bear letdown Mount Rushmore. So, well, thank you, Raghu. We'll get to actually talking about, what you do and what kind of expertise you can bring to our listeners here. And I want to start a little bit about your story because it's a really powerful why story of why you do what you do as a business coach, why you approach certain things. So, it's kind of a really open-ended question, but just can you share a little bit about your why story and how you found to kind of cultivate skills and passions that you have?
Yeah. So my why story, I grew up here in Schaumburg area and in Illinois, and I didn't have any first cousins here in the U.S. So my parents came from India in the 60s, and growing up, didn't have any first cousins here. So my friends were essentially my extended family. And so I always had 3 or 4 different groups of friends, and those were my networks, so to speak, growing up like that. Mm-hmm. And I always related to different people in different ways and had no problem making friends. People have always been my energy. Mm-hmm. I'm an extrovert, so I'm that person that I just feed off of people and energy. Don't even have to have a conversation with them. Just being around people itself and just watching people interact. I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of just staying home and I'm not a hermit or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I've kind of always been that way. And then just growing up after college, got into sales and was in corporate America for 18 years. I was in sales management, and so I was essentially coaching my sales reps at each of those companies on different things. And when I opened up my insurance agency 3 or 4 years ago, did a lot of networking, joined a lot of chambers of commerce, a lot of referral groups, a lot of coffee meetups to understand the whys of people that I met, and fell into the passion of coaching people on connecting and showing them how to interact and build strong relationships with people and give in a giving mindset.
Okay.
And that's really that's my why, is to be that problem solver as well.
Yeah, that's a good
people. Always
problem solving.
Be able to say, hey, I got a guy who could do this, or you should really meet this person because you two would get along. Right.
Yeah.
Be that connector.
So one thing, I mean, you mentioned having the different, even just different friends groups. Well, and first of all, it's interesting not to have any cousins, because, a lot of times when people come to the United States, they're always looking for something familiar. So usually there's a sibling is what that essentially means. So it's interesting. Both your parents didn't have, they kind of just stepped out. Now, did your parents come together? Did they already know each other when they came here?
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So that's that they were the familiarity with each other. Okay. But then with the different groups, friends of groups, even like today, like if I'm throwing a Christmas party for different friends and I invite, college friends or high school friends or friends from work, like at the party, it's always a lot of pressure to actually get them to mingle with each other and not just do 3 isolated groups. So I'm sure, I mean, you probably, it sounds like you've built that skill of just being able to mix between like clique sets or group sets for a very long time, since junior high school, right?
Yeah. I remember my 5th or 6th grade birthday party at Hoffman Lanes at the bowling alley, because I grew up bowling in bowling leagues, and that's how I had a bowling group of friends. So I had my bowling group of friends there. I had my my school friends, my family friends, people that my family knew, those friends, like my parents' friends, and temple friends. And so it was just all those worlds collided, and I just never thought anything of it. They all got along, and I was with the one nucleus.
So it's very easy for you to learn how to say, "Hey, John, here's somebody else."
Yeah, and this is what you guys have in common.
I think this is why you'll really like each other.
Yeah.
So that you've just, like, to me, that's a learned skill. That's something I have to be very intentional about doing. But for you, you've just been doing it for years and years and years. Yeah. That's really underrated. I mean, to you, I'm sure it's one of those things that you just assume is natural, but for a lot of people, I think that's really tough.
Yeah.
Most hosts, I think, would float, right? That's what you do. You float between the groups rather than connecting the groups, right? At a party like that, or even in a professional setting or whatever. So I'm sure that serves you a lot, that connecting, like you said.
Yeah. I didn't realize it until about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, what? This is straight. It's really powerful to be able to connect people, and it saves the time of just people feeling each other out, or wondering if it's worthwhile to even meet up.
Yeah.
Whereas I have that connection vision, as I call it.
Okay.
I love it. And because I love it, I feel like I'm good at it. And it's a great thing to utilize, I think.
Well, and speaking of connections, I think, especially coming, hopefully out of COVID here and everything, I think people really value real, honest connections, local connections, non-social media based connections. Those types of things are, I think, more and more important. But at the same time, as you age and you're not in college anymore and going to social gatherings every night, it's really hard to make those new connections. Or when you go to a networking event or start a new job or go to the Bears game where you only know one person there, but there's 14 people there, it's hard to get over that threshold. So how do you, what's the baseline you try and set to help people, adults, forge new meaningful relationships in kind of the modern world?
Yeah. I would start with your passion, whatever you're passionate about. Like, I know people in running clubs, know people in bowling leagues, and, find out about who you run with, find out more about them, find out more about people that you are in any club with. They have personal lives outside of the activity that you're in.
Right.
And you'll be surprised about what else you have in common with them. And when you actually explore that, the spin-off connections happen, because then you're going to be welcomed into a world of their other friends that they have.
Right.
And sometimes I don't know if you ever have this, but have you ever had somebody that introduced you to somebody and you actually had more in common with that second person, as I call it, the spin-off connection?
Yeah.
You're actually better friends with that person. Yeah. That happens all the time. It's about you actually have more in common with that person, and it's natural.
Yeah.
And it's, as long as relationships are natural, they're not forced.
Right.
Connections are the same thing. And so I think what I would say is start with your passion and start with what your interests are and go from there, because there's people that, might want to learn the same skills as you that are new, and, maybe start some sort of mastermind or start some sort of club or meet up to talk about that, to learn more about it together.
Yeah. Well, actually, I know an attorney I went to law school with, and she does a lot of what I do. And a lot of her business she rides a motorcycle. So she's in a women's motorcycling group, and, talk about like solid people that they know they have that interest, and it's not a common interest necessarily. It's not like, the Bears or the Bulls or something that you can fill a sports bar with. It's, a half dozen people in a pretty wide area, and they all know, like, trust each other and know what each other do, and refer business back and forth in the professional side, but also have that common basis to build other things off of.
Yeah,
it's a solid base.
Yeah, if you're into that, and other people are into it too. Everyone's a person. They all have something outside of that club.
Yeah.
So why not? Combine worlds.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. That's a good thought. I know you and I have talked a lot about this with when you're building connections, how important it is to be somebody who gives. And giving has a lot of different ways. It's not just referrals or money, or there's a lot of different ways to give value versus people who just take value, whether it's attention or money or whatever it is, or referrals, all those things. So can you just expand for everybody here, the givers versus the takers, what that mindset looks like?
Yeah. So I think givers, it's value that they give. It could be a lending ear, not just a lending hand, but being a sounding board for somebody,
right? Sharing
an experience that might save them from going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
It could be just somebody that needs clear direction. It could be, it could be money. It could be donations. It could be, an extra boot on the ground, so to speak. And so it's whatever, finding out what's most important to that person. And if you can help, if you can be a giver, do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's giving. There's nothing wrong with, giving and taking.
Right.
You reciprocating, matching by saying, "Hey, you're good at this. I'm not good at it. Let's collaborate. You help me with that.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at this, and I know you really don't even like doing it.
Yep.
Even if you are good at it.
Right.
So why don't I do that part and help you with that, whatever it may be." There, give and take, matching, as I call it. And I've read, the book called Give and Take.
Okay.
That's one of the lessons I learned from that book as I'm reading it.
Yeah. So on the matching side, how do you, because I'm sure you have this with clients that come across, they're okay giving, but there's kind of I call it like the foot tapping expectation, right? They're kind of sitting there waiting for something to come back to them.
Yeah.
And that, from my experience, and it's understandable, of course, especially when you're running a business, it's understandable that you're not a charity. You have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of attention, a certain amount of money. But how do you kind of coach the long game versus the, I've been at 3 coffees now with this person, or it's been 2 years and I haven't gotten a single referral, or those types of things, frustrations that build when people have given what they would say is enough and haven't gotten anything in return, starting to grow a little impatient on that.
Yeah. Well, it's about planning too. It starts with planning. Just like a business plan, you probably have a 2023 business plan that you're going to be doing. And it's expectations, the activities, is what you actually want from what you're going to be putting into it. And then how many times do you have to do it? Because every relationship's you're not going to get stuff from it.
Right.
And so being okay with that, number one.
Okay.
Being okay with not getting something every time you give. It's a networking and connecting is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't get past that, then you got to get over that first.
Yeah.
So understanding that going into anything, the second thing would be level setting. So at the start of any relationship, to talk about what is that give and take. If that person, I gave you 3 things, I gave you 3 people that connected with you, or 3 referrals, and now expecting back.
Yeah.
If you never talked about what that looks like, then it's not fair to that other person.
Right.
If you're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, getting something in return is not necessarily referrals back. So what is the value?
Right.
Maybe if I refer you somebody, or if I'm connecting with somebody, you giving them and the best service possible and taking care of them in the best way you know how. And I don't really know anybody as good as you. Maybe that is the payback,
right?
Because it helps me, my customers, when it comes to retention.
Yeah.
And it also, when I pass them to somebody like you, and you're doing such a great job with my clients or my friends and family, those friends and family are going to come back to me and say, do you know the Brandon in this world?
Yeah.
I need this, but I want somebody like Brandon. Obviously Brandon doesn't do this, but
right.
They're going to come back to me for that. They're going to trust me. It could work the opposite way too. Whereas if the person I refer them to or connect them with, they're not going to come back to me for that.
Yeah. And I think this is an area where a lot of people, their mind lets them down a little bit, because when you think about giving and taking, you think like for like, so referral for referral, even a referral dollar amount for referral dollar amount, but there's just some things that it's never going to match up. So if you set your expectation there, it's going to be like, for example, with realtors, I refer a realtor a closing on a $400,000 house. Their commission is going to be way more than they refer me the sale closing on that same house. So we're never going to be equals dollar for dollar on what our referrals are. But knowing that what I'm getting back from that referral is the trusted person, knowing that I'm not going to get that call that says, hey, why the heck did you send me this? Like that for me is like the first thing I want to make sure doesn't happen. And I think some people lose that a bit in thinking, okay, well, Raghu sent me 4 people. So by the end of the quarter, I got to make sure I get them, at least half that, but it's really, sometimes it is about, hey, you're just making me look better to my clients. But sometimes it's not. So it's important, again, to set those expectations. I guess probably just like any other relationship, just set the expectations of what things look like.
Yeah. And it's also okay to, even once you do set those expectations, if things change in your world or in my world, is be able to say, hey, let's circle back and level set.
Is this working?
Is it working? Let's reflect on how things have gone, or do we need to tweak anything? Or let me, business is really slow for me right now. I'm not coming across the same amount of people that I thought I would.
Yeah.
So, even if I promised you this many, or I thought that was my goal, I'm going to be upfront with you. I'm going to be fully transparent. I'm trying.
Yep.
You know what? Let's role play a little. Let's pretend like you're my client.
Yeah.
What would you say to me to be able to tee it up for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Help me help you.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, I had a mentor once. He had a couple things when it comes to this. First, he said, it's okay to have to pay tuition to learn, right? So if there's sometimes there's an inequality with people that are sharing with each other, giving, sometimes people are going to have a lot of referrals or a lot of more marketing budget or whatever. So you're doing things is never quite equal, but it's okay to have the attitude that I have to do a little bit extra because I'm trying to make up for this gap here. And also that you always want to position yourself so that when you call, like if I call you, I want your reaction to be like a smile, right? Not the, you don't want that. So whatever that requires the honest communication, so that it's, Brandon's calling me. He hasn't referred me anybody. So why the heck what's he calling me for? Probably just give me a problem, or asking for, trying to take something, right?
Yep.
So it's important to set those expectations so that you don't have those kind of, I guess, diminishing returns on the relationship side of things. Yeah. One thing I want to talk, because I think a lot of this struggle comes back to people, especially when they are just starting their business. Maybe they're coming out of as a wage employee, for example. The corporate world is successful in a lot of ways, but also has a certain mindset that it uses that doesn't necessarily apply to small businesses or entrepreneurs or people who are just trying to build relationships that can kind of rising tide lifts all boats types of things. What's your experience with the corporate mindset and how it shifts or how you have to shift it as you try and get in this relationship based networking.
Yeah, definitely the cycle of time for corporate mindset when you go to networking and build relationships is a lot shorter. They want instant gratification.
Okay.
Because the person, it's a hierarchy. Corporate structure is built on management and people working for people. And so when you have that and you have somebody, it's also built on trust, but lack of trust and wondering when my person goes out there, I'm the manager in a corporation. When my person goes out there and they go out on a couple sales calls or they go to a couple networking events, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, is the $300 we spent for that Chamber of Commerce that we spent? It's for $300 for a whole year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want them to get a sale from it this week.
Yeah.
Is that even a realistic expectation? No. But what's really that as a manager, I have somebody breathing down my neck.
Yeah.
Who has somebody breathing down their neck. If there's a board of directors, and they want to know what the next quarterly earnings and all that other stuff is.
It's interesting, by the way. So we'll go back to the quarterly earning. I've read some books, and one was about Ford during the mid 2000s, first decade with the auto industry and their kind of crisis, and a lot of their difficulties in getting over, like, what in the end were some pretty obvious, like, just bad numbers when it came to doing business. But they're all chasing that quarter because that's what all their jobs were on the line for. So they didn't care about 2 years, 3 years, 1 year from now. They needed a good report on that quarterly so that the stock responded well, so that their higher ups would be better, so that their bonuses would actually have value. So it's all that, like, that kind of circular thinking, short term, real short term, a couple weeks down the road is what you're always thinking, instead of, hey, let's spend $300, like, for a corporation to be worried about $300, like a Ford, be like, hey, why are we sending you to the Sheboygan Chamber of Commerce for $300? Ford does not need to be worried about that $300. But the management is, because it impacts if they don't get those sales, it impacts their quarterlies, which impacts their retention or bonus or whatever it is. It can really be destructive frankly, even short term, not even just long term destructive, but short term, it can be pretty toxic.
Totally. And I think that's one of the reasons why bigger corporations in any of the chambers, they get they sign up just to be on the directory and for that sticker on their door, or for people to be able to say, oh, at least this company, XYZ company, they're a big company, but at least they're part of the local chamber. That it's just a checkbox. They're not even involved a lot of times. Unfortunately, there's some good companies that are and big companies that are, and they're the ones that actually have mentors in their companies. They have leadership programs where they actually want to professionally, they want to develop their employees professionally, and they care about learning and skill setting, and they care about their employees getting promoted and doing things on their own.
Yeah, I think going back to the trust with that, I think that's why those companies are the exception. Is some companies, I think, have the mindset of, if we train this person to network and bring all this business, then why will they still bring it to us? Why won't they go work for our competition or for themselves or whatever it is? There's the kind of, we want you to be good enough to do your jobs for our quarterlies, not so good that you get poached or go and do your own thing, and all of a sudden you're a competition that we've just built up. It's they kind of get nervous about that, I think, a little bit, rather than just growing the individual and treating them well enough that they'll never even consider it. Or
So you were asking, I mean, that's the big difference. But when you're a small business owner like us, and you don't have that corporate structure breathing down your neck, and you can take your time, and every dollar you spend in the community when it comes to advertising or marketing, you're going to actually care about being there, being local, getting relationships out of it, because that there's no time clock on it. But you also want to get something out of it by giving in the right areas consistently. And so, that's the key, is because you also know that your name is on the door. And so when your name is on the door, when you're going out, now it's your reputation that's on the line. When you're out there and you're networking, you don't want anyone saying that, hey, Brandon just comes around. All he does is just, he's a taker. You don't want to be that person.
No,
because that's your brand.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And then when I am looking for another job, that's just another ask, right? That says, that's all it is, oh, here he is. All he does is ask for favors. And now he wants me to hook him up with somebody I trust to,
like you said. Yeah. You don't want to be that person when you call somebody.
Yep.
Where they're like, oh, here's Brandon again.
Yeah.
He's got a problem he wants me to solve.
Yep.
Because he can't solve his own problem, or he wants something from me.
Yep. What does he want? And then even though in the phone call, you start with the pleasantries, you're always just thinking, all right, let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Me up.
Yeah, let's get to it here. It's kind of, because personally, I don't have much patience for small talk, so I often will just cut. I'm like, hey, so what do you want? What's going on? Like, let's get to it. Like, let's just have at it. Pull the Band-Aid off and let's see if I can help you. But I think getting back to the corporate mindset, I think a lot of people who work for big companies, when they see small businesses, act in certain ways, they sometimes it's jealous. Oh, I wish we could do that, or whatever it is. But sometimes it's just bewilderment. Like, aren't you worried about, I remember when I was opening my own law firm, I get to make all the rules. All the problems are mine because I created them, and all the good things are also a result of, a little bit of what I've done, at least. And, but it's nice if there's a problem, I can just solve it. Mm-hmm. But then again, I can also set the boundaries. Like, one of the big questions my wife had for me when I opened up was like, so what are you going to do? Like evenings and weekend meetings or things like that? I said, no, I'm not going to. And then she followed up like, are you concerned about, what if, are you going to lose out on potential clients and all these things? Yeah, maybe you probably do. I suppose it's inevitable, but that's just, you find the right fit. So on the other hand, I create systems that allow people to work around, so they don't have to meet with me at 7 p.m. They can work around their schedule and mine a little bit easier. But in the corporate world, to try and create a, online client portal, that'd have to go through so many subcommittees and other things and different analysis and focus groups and graphic design and all. It would take years to ever get that done. Whereas, when you're a small business, you can just kind of do it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a bit of people realizing like, what I think is possible and not possible, or okay and not okay. Really, they really got to shift that to realize it's just we're all just in a sandbox here. Mm-hmm. You can create whatever you want to create. And now that you're on your own, you have complete control. If it sucks, it's your fault, but if you can fix it too at the same time. Like even wearing a tie. Like, I haven't worn a tie. Like, and I'm an attorney, but I haven't found that clients really care. I'm not showing up in my my workout shirt or anything like that. But I'll wear something like this, and it looks professional enough. But the corporate world, I'd wear a tie every day.
Oh yeah, it's structure.
Yeah, structure is what you do.
Policy about it.
Yep. And if you don't, then pretty soon you'll get something on your review, and like, hey, I'm worried about how you present yourself to clients with some like language there. How you do that. So, but I guess the question becomes, for people who are making that transition out of the corporate world into the as their own small business, let's just say. Mm-hmm. What do you try and help them with to get through, to show them that, it's their playground. They could do what they want, but there's some responsibility they have to take with it too. So how do you handle coaching people through, that kind of planning with who they're going to talk to, who they're going to target, and how they're going to kind of run their business that way when it comes to being in charge of the connections they make? Yeah.
First, I try to just find out what their biggest strengths are. Mm-hmm. And I try to work everything that you just talked about around those. Okay. So if we're leading with the strengths, that will shine. Okay. So their strengths should show in their value statement, their value, mm-hmm. Value proposition. Yep. And in their 30-second elevator speech. Yep. When you get out networking, you need that. But your strength should show in there. And if it's not in there, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. All right. Your strength should also show in examples that you give to people, mm-hmm. of actually what you do. And so I work with people based on their personalities and based on their confidence levels, mm-hmm. and comfort zones. That's huge. Is if they're really comfortable doing something, it's probably a strength. Mm-hmm. So we start there, and then we expand that by involving things that, that if they could do this, what would it do as far as opening more doors, whether it be opening up getting after a new type of clientele, or if they're looking for potential referral sources, or just being around a certain industry of people. How would they need to do? What would they need to do in order to really present themselves in a way while being themselves, obviously, mm-hmm. but getting the most out of being themselves and present themselves a way that's really going to hit home with those people that they meet.
Right. No, that's a good point. And play the strengths, like like I just brought up the example of casual dress or less, not formal dress. Somebody whose strength might be to, well, people are really comfortable with you, and they, you disarm them and open them up. Then the casual dress actually builds into that. Whether if you're wearing the $2,000 three-piece suit, that actually works against your strength, because the first thing they see is, like, for an attorney, okay, now sharp, big attorney guy sitting here. Whereas if you're wearing something like this, it's like, okay, a little more comfortable, walking with a cup of coffee or whatever it is, just to help people disarm. That's a play to your strengths, right?
Yeah. And especially, it's like, I don't know if obviously, I don't think you'd be comfortable in a big, nice suit.
No.
If you were, you would wear it.
Yeah.
So when you're not comfortable, people can probably sense that.
That's true. Yeah.
And you're not going to be your authentic self. And when you're not that, the trust is going to take a little longer to build. And they're going to wonder, like, is that genuine? Are you genuine?
Right. Yeah. Because I think
the same person now that you are going to be if I refer you somebody.
Right. I think somewhere in our minds we have just an instinctual, I think probably survival instinct of being able to smell something that's like not authentic. Probably back to when the stranger comes over to your campfire, you need to be able to kind of figure out pretty quickly if they're the real deal, or if they're just trying to sell you something or take advantage of you.
Yeah.
I think that same thing happens if somebody's in a sales call or in a professional networking setting is trying to project more than what they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, I guess, between projection and emphasizing what you are rather than project what you think people want to see. That difference there is probably the difference between being seen as authentic and or not.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. One last thing I want to talk about here is just with connecting and networking in general. Some people, I've really seen kind of two big mindsets. One are like, well, I don't need a network, I got enough business. And the other is, well, if I don't network, everything's gonna, sky's gonna come crashing down. And just like anything, we're all limited on time. Most of us are limited on money and energy. All of us have a limit at some point, even if we're rock stars. So how do you try and work within and tell people how to budget all of those things when it comes to going out and meeting new connections? Is it a matter of, hey, if you have enough business, don't worry about it? Or on the other hand, if you're really struggling, you better get out there hustling. How do you kind of set people's mindset the right way there?
Yeah. So I always just evaluate, even if they have a lot of business,
mm-hmm.
If they don't do any networking, will they still have a lot of business in the future? How much longer do they actually want to be in business? Is networking only about business for them?
Okay.
So I had somebody who, they have a lot of business, but networking was building a go-to place for their clients.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to be much more than a chiropractor. They wanted to be much more than an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Then they want to be more than their occupation to their clients. And so that's when they're like that and they get to that level, then, and they have that type of mindset, networking, they can be most successful person ever and have,
mm-hmm.
And then I had another person that wanted to get more involved in the community with local charities.
Yep.
So you can be as successful as you want, but to get in tight with local charities, you still need networking.
Yep.
Or connecting and warm introductions and things like that.
It makes sense. And I like the be more than your profession, because one of the biggest indicators I have about my status with my clients is when they call me for something they know I don't do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, hey, I thought you might do this. That's one thing. But hey, I know you don't do this, but who do you recommend? Because now they've just basically told me, hey, I really trust and like your opinion. But the same thing, so if, let's say I were the attitude of being the really busy guy, I don't need business. But I might question, hey, Raghu, why you set me up with this coffee with a roofer? What's that doing? But when my client calls me and says, hey, I know you're not a roofer, but do you have a good roofer?
Yep.
Like if I can just instantly pull that name out, say, yeah, you got to call Sal and he'll take care of you. That's a relationship that they're never going to forget that. They're going to know.
Yeah. And if you already had that set up and you already have that go-to, you don't have to, your time is very valuable. No matter how busy you are, you have it. You already have that.
Yep.
You've already vetted them. You've already met them. You know that they do good work if you've referred them to somebody else.
Yep.
And your customer, like you said, they know you, they trust you. And they trust you because they know you truly care about them.
Right. Yeah.
That's the key.
Yep. Yeah. Not just the paycheck that comes with it.
Yeah.
Because again, that comes the authenticity piece and all those things. All right. Well, I want to finish up here with something I call the three-peat. I ask the same three questions for all my guests here. So the first question is, what's a good book that you recommend to friends?
So I recommend The Go-Giver.
Go-Giver. And
by
who is it? Sorry.
Bob Berg.
Bob Burg? Berg, G-B-E-R-G. And what is it about that book that kind of is like profound or you found so interesting? Obviously, giving.
The biggest principle from the book that I took was provide more in value than you collect in payment.
Okay.
So it's actually, be more than just an insurance agent, be more than just a business coach to people.
Yep.
And if you actually provide more value than you collect in payment, they will come to you for everything.
Yep.
Because they see you as a problem solver.
Yeah.
And if you're a problem solver, you're relevant. So when I call you, I'm not calling you for something that's for me. I'm calling you because I might have something for you. I might have an opportunity for you, a true opportunity.
Right.
And then I want to just throw out to you. And I care about helping you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's a great book.
Mm-hmm.
I read it about 4 years ago, and that changed the way I look at things as far as giving in a networking atmosphere, at networking events, just the conversations that we have about truly listening to people and looking for cues on how you can connect them with different people and be of value more than just giving money or referrals to people.
Yeah. I'm trying to, be valued, not just a transaction type of thing. And I think that's really interesting. This kind of just jumped to my head here to kind of bring that full circle is, if you put the time and energy in making more relevant and valuable connections with your kind of sphere of influence, then you're more valuable to your clients. And then you can still hold this idea of providing more in value than what you charge, but you can charge more because you're providing more value. So your value ceiling rises, so your price floor can rise along with it. So I think, that's like a aha moment for some people. I think that could really, the value of networking just beyond getting a referral to meet this quarterly goals or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So then the second question is, what is your go-to stand at the farmer's market?
It is the sports memorabilia.
Oh, okay.
Place.
You getting some autographed pictures or plaques or what are you
I
doing?
usually get anything Purdue.
Anything
Look
Purdue.
for something new, some new Purdue signage or mugs that I don't have.
Yep.
Something different. So I went to Purdue, and that's where I met my wife, and my daughter wants to go there. We're actually having another good season in basketball. So
yeah, you sure are.
Keep it going.
So I'm a gopher. So we actually don't have basketball season. We have hockey season. So I'm not in basketball season. I'm in hockey season right now. We're doing fine there. Basketball season doesn't exist this year for us. I don't think Purdue even has a hockey team. Guys aren't brave enough to skate with us. Yeah.
Maybe a club team.
Yeah, maybe. But so that's interesting on the Purdue side. If you're let's say you just stumble on and there's a Purdue only sports memorabilia place in, the Schaumburg Farmers Market. Are you looking for, Gene Keady autographed hairpiece? Are you looking for a Drew Brees helmet? What are you looking for? What would be
anything Drew Brees?
Anything Drew Brees?
Of course. I love Drew Brees.
Okay. So
I actually had a class with Drew Brees.
Oh, you did? Yeah. You were there at the same time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was there during the good years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's better than that. But did he actually go to class?
Yeah, I think I saw him in one class.
Okay. Oh, that's all right.
And he did come to all the exams, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. He showed up for those.
Yeah.
Probably just fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So Drew Brees on the football side, but I mean the Purdue basketball, Matt Painter and all that. I mean,
yeah.
So, but you'd put Drew Brees above Matt Painter,
sure,
as far as like handshake a guy as we leave the building here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
By far.
But was that because of what he did in the NFL or what he did at Purdue?
He was awesome at Purdue.
He was awesome at Purdue, but most people didn't know about him.
Yeah,
you'd have to go to Purdue or be a Big Ten football fan.
Right.
So, but do you think? I know obviously with the Bears and everything, you're a big NFL fan.
Yeah.
So, and he way outproduced. Nobody would have predicted that he'd be this Hall of Famer. He was good at Purdue.
Yeah.
But that was the old system quarterback days. He's just in this Joe Tiller offense. Can he really do it? And he's short. And then didn't he have a bum shoulder at?
He did. He got hurt with the Chargers.
The Chargers.
Everyone gave up on him.
Yep.
The Bears could have signed him 2006, but Rex is our quarterback.
Rex is Good choice.
Shot at Lovey. Sorry.
I think it was the Dolphins that were between Dante Culpepper and Drew Brees to sign.
That's a good memory.
And it was a shoulder. It was a shoulder that got him to Culpepper instead of Drew Brees.
Yep.
So at least the Bears aren't the only one that made the wrong call there.
Yeah. It doesn't make me feel better.
It doesn't make you feel better. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Then the last question here is, if when you leave here today and you just found out you can't do what you're doing now, you can't do the business coaching, you can't own your insurance business anymore. What would you do?
I'd be an expert schmoozer.
Expert schmoozer?
Yeah. So the person or the guy that takes clients out to sports games like Bears games, Bulls games, Blackhawks games, and Cubs games, Sox games. If
be the handler, the handler for would unlike the would that be like at the corporate side, like you'd work for Boeing or something, and when big people come in, you're there in the back of the limo at the airport, and you're like, hey, let's go. I got a good steakhouse for you.
Yeah, any place with deep pockets.
Deep pockets
that needs a good schmoozer.
That's not going to scrutinize your expense reports too much. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Actually, my wife does that for.
Oh, okay.
That's what she does for a company that's local to here.
Yeah. But hey, if you get the big company, but if you land, if you land keep the clients happy or keep those big wigs happy, you can add as many zeros to that expense report as you want. They're never going to be out of pocket there. About. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, there's plenty you can follow up there, but we'll do that. We'll do that later. So, all right. So as we wrap up here, I want to give you all just a quick testimony. Raghu, I met through networking, no surprise. And I just want to say to you, thank you for everything you've done for me. You really helped me. One thing attorneys and me in particular can do is you get lost in the business, right? You get lost in just being at your desk, completing the work that needs to be done, and then you end up with an empty pipeline. You're like, there's crickets out there, and you're like, oh my gosh, is this the end? But you've really helped me get to places, meet people, build meaningful connections. I really appreciate that, and it's bearing fruit. I don't have to be that toe tapping person. It's bearing fruit and in a lot of different ways. So I really appreciate that. So
and I really appreciate you being a loyal client of mine.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. It's an easy choice, easy check to cut each month.
And you're completely awesome to work with.
Oh, well, thanks.
So much fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm not turning this into a compliment party for me, but all right, back at it. So if you want to work with Raghu, I would highly recommend it. I know you always say, if you want to be the live version of LinkedIn, if you want to be that person that just has all these connections in person beyond a web page, that he's the guy to call. So you can reach him by text or email. His phone number here, I'll read it. It's 847-302-0690. Got that right?
Yep.
All right. And then the email address is Raghu, RAGHU, at alwaysbeconnecting.net, all spelled out, alwaysbeconnecting.net. But thank you, Raghu, so much for coming on. It was a great time. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you around next time. Be kind to each other. Thanks.